You see, President Trump continues to struggle with his NATO allies. Don't forget that ostensibly, the culture is that all for one, one for all, particularly with the NATO Article 5. However, the NATO countries refused, despite the massive pressure from President Trump, to join them in this war against Iran. Why? They insisted that number one, the United States of America did not initiate war plans with them. It did not consult them before it went into war. So they are not going to follow the US of A to go and do this war. Number two, they stated that a lot of those NATO countries don't even have the right weaponry, particularly when it comes to unblocking the Strait of Hormuz. They are particularly bereft of minesweepers. Some countries don't have at all, for example, Finland, while some countries have so little, very little, that they are not actually ready to, quote and unquote, waste those scarce military resources on a war they were not even informed about in the first instance. Number three, they stated that this war of the US of A against Iran is not a defensive war, that Iran actually did not attack the US of A, such that the US of A needs to defend itself, and then the rest of the NATO countries should actually rise up and help the US of A defend itself. They are saying that it is the US of A that actually went on to attack Iran. So for Iran, this battle is a battle of survival, so to say. While for the US of A, the war is completely, absolutely a battle of choice, which the NATO countries are not going to participate in. Again, the President Trump became very angry. He's still very angry, and is still trying to drag NATO countries into war with him. He really needs to. He's desperate to do this as a coalition, but he is not getting that coalition, and he has still not gotten the coalition to date. As we speak, the blockade that the Americans are mounting below the Strait of Hormuz, as leaky as the blockade is, still remains absolutely and isolatedly American. No other country has contributed, at least at the public level, vocalizing same, to the blockade effort, again for the reasons I itemized. And another reason why the blockade may be even leakier than it used to be before is that one important element of the blockade, the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier, which is the biggest, most expensive, and most advanced American and global aircraft carrier at this time. It cost $13 billion, has actually made a U-turn on the Red Sea, and is now returning home to continental America. It should return. The sailors are essentially bereft of every, of motivation. They are tired, and they're actually, not in the best shape at this time. As a maximum, each aircraft carrier should do a maximum of only 6 months at sea and return to continental America. This aircraft carrier has now done 10 months. It has also been beleaguered by a lot of challenges, including the toilet saga. You remember the overflowing toilets, including the fire in the laundry room that also burns the beddings and a lot of important infrastructure that is critical to the sailors. Add that to the food problems of the American sailors that they're experiencing, where they are getting only very tiny and measly and practically disgusting food rations. And add that to the fact that the US postal system is just not able to get the care packages the kind families of the sailors are, sending to them from continental America to the men at sea. So the Gerald Ford, the biggest and most expensive and most advanced themselves of all, has eventually buckled under pressure. Has now made a U-turn and is returning back home. That leaves only two aircraft carriers, on the seas of the Middle East. And they are currently the Abraham Lincoln and the George Bush. We just joined them recently. It is left to be seen if the Americans will bring in, even more, aircraft carriers to join them. But trust me, the options are dwindling and dwindling by the day, especially because some of these assets will need to be plucked away from the South China Sea and the Koreas, where North Korea and China are particularly important potential belligerents that may go for the jugulars of Taiwan and South Korea at anytime, led by President Xi and Kim Jong Un of of North Korea. That is by the way. So how is President Trump particularly dealing, so to say, with his NATO allies ostensibly at this time? You see, just like the Iranians have succeeded in ranking the belligerents that are fighting them and ranking also the allies that are working with them in the axis of resistance, President Trump has actually also, it has been leaked into the media, a particular email where President Trump and his administration have ranked the NATO allies according to, so to say, how much of assistance and how much of help they have rendered, particularly with respect to this Iran war. At the top of the pack of the so-called bad guys who have rendered almost no help at all and who have actually made it their foreign policy to attack the US of A and to actually put America out there as a bad actor in this war is Spain. Spain. Don't forget that not just the Spain denied the use of the use of its airspace and the use of its naval facilities to prosecute this war, particularly when America needed the second ring of access after they lost likely the first ring of access in the Persian Gulf countries. Then Spain has actually made a lot of public speeches, in support of not just the Palestinians, but even the Iranians. In fact, in the course of this war, Spain actually went to Iran and reopened the Spanish embassy. President Trump was livid with rage, very, very angry. And because of that, President Trump is now considering, number one, actually, reducing the number of troops that the US of A has in Spanish bases. Again, also removing some important, so to say, benefits that Spain may be enjoying from the NATO alliance. Next to Spain is the United Kingdom. You see, the UK has actually contributed at least its various might. But President Trump and his administration believe that the UK could have done by far more, and it has not done that. And because of that, the payment, what the US of A will need to pay, is particularly its control of, and it's a titular, access to Falkland Islands. You see, the Falkland Islands is a territory that Argentina and the and the UK scuffled, fought over a few decades of them as in ago, and because of the UK's overwhelming military powers, it eventually captured that territory from Argentina. So the US is now saying that they are going to be de-recognizing, so to say, the Falkland Islands as a UK territory, thereby giving Argentina, so to say, titular access to, titular control of the Falkland Islands. Don't forget that currently the current Argentinian president, Javier Milei, is a very strong ally of not just Israel and the United States of America. In fact, to win the election he just won to return as the second-term president of Argentina, the US of A, President Trump actually gave him a $20 billion economic lifeline, which helped him to win the elections, despite the massive inflationary pressure that Argentina is experiencing at this time. So that is where the United States of America is thinking of putting reverse pressure, counter pressure on the UK for not doing as much as they believe they should have done, particularly, with respect to helping America to open the Strait of Hormuz. Again, the United States of America is also thinking of resuscitating the Greenland crisis. You remember the Greenland, the Greenland territory that is titularly being controlled by Denmark. Exactly. The US of A says they are going to bring back the issue and try to take Greenland from the Danes, even if it is necessary to do it under military pressure. Again, because NATO and the Europeans did not join the US of A in war against Iran. At the bottom rung, those who seem to have done best with the US of A at this time are countries like Romania, countries like Poland, and countries like Bulgaria, who gave the US of A unfettered military access to their airspace and to their naval and military bases. Again, it was easier for them. Why? Because they are well outside the range, so to say, of Iranian missiles, as against the UK, that is at least within range of Iranian missiles, via again one of the overseas territories called Diego Garcia. So again, President Trump continues to pressure the European countries to join him in war against Iran, while the European countries are saying, no, we are not going to get into this. We got stung by Iraq and Afghanistan and not anymore. That is the current status quo. Thank you very much. Have a good day.